Hey folks, Crazy Climber 80 here again, and this time we're going to look at a game called Bonk's Adventure, and this is the arcade version of the classic for the TurboGrafx system, and this is also known as BC Kid, or BC Genjin, I think. If you're looking for the ROM, it is under BC Kid instead of Bonk's Adventure, so if you're thinking that you'll find it under Bonk's Adventure, it's not. It's under BC Kid, but this was created by Kaneko in 1994, and it is the arcade version of the TurboGrafx classic, which was created in 1989 by Red Company and Atlas and licensed to Hudson Soft. I never really played the TurboGrafx system. I definitely heard of it, and I know that Bonk is sort of its mascot, and that the game of Bonk's Adventure was well received, and I think it had numerous sequels. But this is the arcade version that was only released in Japan. Now you can select from 21 different levels to start with. You can choose from any of them at any time after you complete one. And you will eventually have to face 7 bosses. And you will need to face one after completing 3 levels. Now, Bonk is a cave boy in prehistoric times. And there will be various prehistoric type of enemies he'll have to face. There will be sleeping flowers, I guess, is what they are, and you can come up to them, and some of them you will be able to use as springboards, and some of them will yield items when you bonk them with your head, and that is your main weapon, is your head. You can do a standing bonk, or you can do a jumping bonk, which makes you flip upside down and smash your head into the ground, or into whatever enemies are below you. Now note that the levels are very short, thank goodness. I mean, there's 21 of them. But the levels are very short, and they conclude with a basketball hoop and a couple springs. You can spring yourself up to the basketball hoop. This guy is a spring. He does not yield items when you destroy him. That one does. You can release fruits for bonus points. Note that there is a life meter for Bonk in the top left. There's the 3 hearts, and they turn blue when you get hurt. Now, in order to prevent having to rely on your life bar, you can collect smiley faces, smiley emojis, and when you get hit, you will lose at least 1 emoji. Sometimes you can lose them all, depending, I guess, on how strong the enemy is. And the emojis are kind of sensitive. An enemy brushing up against them, or sometimes even when you hit an enemy with your head and the emojis will fly off. And when you've got no emojis left, then you have to rely on your life meter. And here we're back at the end of the next stage. See, they're very short. You can bounce off the springs and launch yourself up to possibly slam your head through the goal. And you get bonus points if you do that. You get bonus points if you collect sporting equipment and bring it to the goal. And the sporting equipment includes like a football, a basketball, and a soccer ball. Some power-up items you can collect will kind of transform Bonk. And this will give him the power to slam into the earth with a jump and a attack button move, which, you know, makes him slam his head into the ground. And that will act as a smart bomb. It can damage or kill all enemies on screen. Now, when the emojis are orange, that means you have all the ones that you can possibly hold, 10 of them. And you will get a nice perfect bonus if you go through the goal with all your emojis. You know, with a total of 10. There are diamonds you can collect. And now he's transforming. And he has a stronger attack with his headbutt on the ground. The ground shakes. And I'm going to get a perfect bonus for having all the emojis. Yep. There are diamonds you can collect, and if you get 100 of them, you will get an extra life. And there I could choose between which boss I wanted to face, because I made it through 3 stages. Once you make it through 3 stages, you gotta go through a boss fight. And there were diamonds that were released which I could have picked up to build toward an extra life. When you collect sporting equipment, this boss is super easy. Just headbutt him when he appears. He's the large miner guy. But you can swat at the pickaxes that bounce around, but you're likely to lose an emoji. I think this plays very similarly to the TurboGrafx version. I've never played it, but I think I read that it's very similar. Sometimes you can collect an item that gives you 10 10 diamonds, and you know, instead of being able to just collect 1 diamond at a time. Yeah, you can slam your head through walls, so if the boss appears underneath a wall, you can hit him like that. You can score really well in this game. Good night. 400,000 for beating the boss? Dang. If you run out of time just as you beat the boss, you will lose a life and you have to start the boss fight over. That's total bullshit. I didn't get a perfect bonus that time. You can go through the goal with no emojis, no smiley emojis, and you'll see Bonk cry. He won't get any bonus. Now we're introduced to these logs that will sink when you jump on them. So you have to jump off quickly. You can attach to a wall if you don't quite make a jump. And you can just press up and Bonk will climb up the wall. He seems to sometimes grip it with his teeth. You can duck. And I think that might prevent enemies from knocking your emojis off, but they can still hit you. But yeah, with the collection of certain items like a giant piece of meat, Bonk can... Oops. Got burned there. Bonk can transform, and he'll be super strong when he jumps and slams his head into the ground. But yeah, bringing sports equipment with you to the goal, slamming your head downwards through the hoop. There's numerous ways that you can collect extra bonus points. But again, every 3 levels you beat, you will end up having to face a boss, and you can select which boss you want to face. There are a total of 21 levels, not including the boss fights. And we will look at least a snippet of every single one. Yeah, this being a Japan-only release, I'd never seen or heard of this before. This was suggested by YouTube user DJ Candyman Mike. And still taking requests. Their Bonk transforms, and I slammed into the earth, and it acts as a kind of a smart bomb. It hurts or kills all enemies on screen. And I'm gonna get a perfect bonus. There we go. But yeah, I don't think I ever played the original Bonk's Adventure for the TurboGrafx back in 1989. I remember seeing the TurboGrafx when it was first launched at Toys R Us. But I was more of a Nintendo and Sega Genesis kind of guy back then, so I didn't really give it much of a chance. I think I might have played a was it Keith Courage, which might have been like the pack-in game at the time. I played that on a demo for a little bit, I think. It looked like a decent enough system, but I was already into the Genesis and the NES, so didn't really want to bother with buying a whole new system. But yeah, sometimes the size, there are different sizes of the sporting equipment, and I didn't get any emojis, smiley emojis brought to the goal. But yeah, you sure can score some nice points in this game. And here is another boss fight. But yeah, those smiley emojis, it doesn't take much to lose one. I skipped forward a little bit through this boss fight, but I ran out of time, I believe. And yeah, it makes you start all the way over with the boss fight, which is just total crap. Yeah, we'll just zip forward, and I'll beat him, but I'll run out of time. Hurry up! Oh, hang on just a sec. Let me just beat this friggin' bastard. There we go. It even says, "Congratulations, you cleared the boss." And then you die. Timeout. And you start all over. What the fuck? I'm sorry, but that's BS. So we'll skip forward. Here's the screen when you have to continue. But if you put in a credit, you get an extra life to start. So you have 4 lives instead of just 3. And when you put in your initials, you put in Japanese hiragana characters. I put in what I think is the characters for my name, Raseru, for Russell. That's cool. They speak out the characters that you put in. I think that's really neat. I don't know for sure if that's what it would sound like, Raseru for Russell. We're zipping forward to see what the next level would look like, or at least part of it. And then we'll look at the next level here. Just snippets of the remaining levels in order. And we'll look at the boss fights too. And again, after every 3 levels, you have to face a boss. Oops. He died by falling into the abyss. Yeah, I think I read that this plays pretty similar to Bonk's Adventure, the first game for the Turbo graphics. And then here is the third boss. Yeah, some of the earlier launch games for the Turbo graphics looked decent, and some of them looked freaking terrible. There was kind of a Kung Fu Master type game, I forget what it was called, but it looked so awful. Some of the sports games kind of looked cool. But yeah, I was more into the Sega Genesis and the NES at the time. I guess Toys R Us are going by the wayside. Boy, that place was my hangout back in the day. I loved looking at all the new systems and new games, and looked for all the sales of cheap NES games. I was all about that place. I loved it. You know, even when I was in high school, I was crazy about Toys R Us. Now I guess they're all going by the wayside from what I hear. That's really sad. But I guess on this level you can get coated with mud and you're like slow or something. Sorry, a lot of things about this game I wasn't sure about. But here is the next boss. Again, you can select which boss you want to fight in whatever order. Kind of cool. It's the guy made out of ice. And he can fire hurricanes at you or gusts of wind. And we'll look at the remaining levels here. Yeah, there's a total of 21 levels and then 7 boss fights. And I've got all my smiley emojis. Plus I've got the power to hurt all enemies by doing a headbutt on the ground. And there's also underwater levels. Or at least part of it's underwater. Oh, and these annoying guys fire these whirlpools at me. They'll get sucked into the enemy that way. And then this one's taking place on like an airship. Kind of makes me think of the airships on Super Mario Bros. 3. I never got into Super Mario Bros. 3. I mean, I respected it. It's definitely a good game, but just something about it I didn't really get into. And here's another boss. I like, my favorite game of all the Super Marios was 2. Far and away. It was fantastic. It wasn't even supposed to be a Mario game. It was supposed to be called Doki Doki Panic, and none of the Mario characters were supposed to be in it. But they changed that for the American release, much to its benefit. Fantastic game. I think it's top 10 all-time NES games in my book anyway. Probably top 5, really. I would put Legend of Zelda at #1 all-time. Yeah, we'll just look at snippets of the remaining levels, and then there's a soccer ball I could have picked up. But yeah, those smiley emojis come off way too easily. Giant spike balls. This is definitely a cute, playable game. The tone of this kind of makes me think of a game called Toki. It's kind of similarly goofy. And here's another boss fight. And this guy is like a giant mutated version of you. But yeah, you can do a standing headbutt, or you can do a jump and slam your head into the ground attack, and I prefer the latter. And these electrical rods here. But yeah, this is kind of a cute game. Watch out! You will instantly die if you fall into an abyss. But yeah, carry those sports equipment to the goal at the end, and you'll get a bonus. You'll get bonuses for slamming your head through the hoop or goal. I almost made it to the goal that time. And here is the last level, and we will face one more boss after this. And we'll just look at a little bit of the boss and then the ending. But yeah, if you jump and don't quite make it and you hit the wall, you will be able to climb up it. And here's the last boss. Boy, from now on, whenever I see a smiley-faced emoji, I'll have to think of this game. He's got like an electrical field, he can shoot fire. And we defeated the boss and we get 1,000,000 points. A lot of scoring in this game. Basketball I can put through the hoop for extra points, and just moving around with the sports equipment you get a little bit of points as you like dribble it. Not quite perfect, but 70,000. Victory. And can't read all that hiragana, sorry. You can play 2-player simultaneous play on this, and your second character is a version of you that's female. So it's Bonkette, or whatever. Well, that is Bonk's Adventure, also known as BC Kid by Kaneko in 1994. I'll put in my initials again in hiragana. Raseru. I don't know for sure if that's if that really is Russell in Japanese. If you know Japanese, let me know if that's right. I think that's so cool that they say it. Well, that is Bonk's Adventure, also known as BC Kid, by Kaneko in 1994. Well, this is Crazy Glamouridity saying thanks for watching Bonk's Adventure, or BC Kid in 1994, by Kaneko, and I will catch you later in the future with another video. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.